as a whole, like reasons for optimism heading into the rest of this season. I mean, I think you start with the quarterback position. Are there any other areas where like, hey, if they just get a little more experience or just get things a little more settled down, that this team can win 8, 9, maybe more games down the stretch here?
Well, it is the quarterback. It's all about the quarterback. Now you have at least a semblance of an offense, right? And 98 yards, and everybody's like, "Oh, he only had 98 yards. That was in 2.5 quarters." Right. And he led 3 straight scoring drives to take a lead. So to sit there and compare Alex Orji's game against Minnesota to this one, it was night and day. You had one guy that looked like he'd played the position before and another guy who just is not a quarterback. So that's helpful when you have something like that. I think the defensive line did some good things again up front. Mason Graham's an absolute beast, and he's going to continue to dominate against some of these other teams that on the schedule coming up, I think, and that helps. They just can't give up the 3rd and longs anymore, guys. That's just that's ridiculous where they've gotten there to that point. That's got to get better. So, man, they sure do miss a Rod Moore, and I don't see how they've got to get better in the secondary. I don't know who it's going to be up to help that position group, but those guys have got to be better right now. They're the weaker link than they should be, and they have some pieces there that just need to play better. So Tommy Doman's got to improve. I know we're looking for reasons for optimism here. I don't have a ton of them other than the fact that Jack Tuttle makes this offense look decent and Amorian Walker caught a pass, right? So because this receiver group still isn't where it needs to be either. So that's kind of where I am right now. And they're going to have to prove it to me against Illinois, and they're going to get healthier. That's another thing. If you told me all those guys, I had no idea Jimmy Rolder was going to be out or that Derek Moore was going to be out. There were a lot of guys missing in that game, as you saw, Anthony, when you put up the injury report, where you're thinking, okay, now you've got Miles Hinton out, which we were concerned about. That was probably a logical loss, and at the same time, it was such a winnable game. So disappointing.
And your starting center's out for your first road game of the year too. Greg Crippen makes his first start. Looked like he did okay, but it's to me though. This is still a very good defense in the grand scheme of things. It's not what Michigan's been defensively in the last couple of years, but this is a defense that has played pretty well this season. They've gotten burned against the pass a few times, and I agree that if it was Rod Moore back there on the Giles Jackson deep ball, that ball's either not thrown, maybe intercepted, and definitely broken up at the very least. But instead, it's a long completion. And your former wideout on a night when you didn't have any wide receivers step up makes a big play against you, and made a few big plays. He had the touchdown, had a nice end around. Michigan has a couple gadget plays, end around, a little swing pass to Samaj Morgan. But beyond that, and the 22-yard reception by Amorian Walker on a great throw on a 3rd and 10, great play by Michigan. Those are too few and far between. And when you look at the 20 passes that Michigan had that were intended for a specific receiver, basically not thrown away, 11 of them were targeted to Colston Loveland. That's, he's great, and he caught 6 of those, but you need other guys to step up in the passing game if you're going to have a quote-unquote real offense or a normal offense. As Jed Fish said, once Jack Tuttle came in, I told NBC that now we have to go back to playing normal defense, right? Which is kind of damning as to what the offense was before Tuttle came in, but it's kind of a separate subject. So they need some guys to step up, but you have really good running backs, an improving offensive line that hopefully will get healthier, a really good defensive line, a great corner that does need to play better from what happened on Saturday night. So, and a great kicker. So, there's definitely optimism if they can show that they can continue to make strides on offense with Tuttle now being the guy.
Yeah, optimism for me. I mean, I think it's still that I think the pieces are there for this to be a really good football team. Not a great team, but a really good team that gives itself a chance to win all of these games. It's clear to me at this point, like the defense, like you said, is very good. It's not great. It's not good enough to kind of drag you across the finish line. So complementary football, I think, is going to be just so important for them moving forward. Both the reasons for pessimism. That's pretty much what the first 30 minutes of the show were. It's pretty much what these last 5 weeks of shows have been. So maybe we'll leave it with this and get to questions. I mean, I want one guy on each side of the ball from both of you guys that you think will have the biggest impact on the rest of this season, whether it be just because he's already good, whether it be somebody that his emergence can help this team find another gear. Give me that one guy on each side of the ball for both of you.
Jack Tuttle and Mason Graham. Jack Tuttle is going to be the key to this offense doing anything. He's got to protect the ball. He's got to be better with it, and I think he will be. He did some really nice things out there when he was out there and made it look like Michigan actually had a quarterback again. And then Mason Graham's capable of taking over games. Will Johnson's been a little bit disappointing at times this year. He's had some big plays, but then again, there are times that he's been picked on a little bit, and he's got to step up and be better. But to me, I've said it week in and week out, I thought Mason Graham would be the defensive player of the game, and he usually doesn't let me down.
I'm going to go Kalel Mullings and Mason Graham, just for obvious reasons, I guess. I mean, those are going to be the D-line's the strength on defense. Mason Graham's the best among that group, and I still think the run game is your strength on offense, something you have to lean on and open up the pass as well as you go forward now that you can pass a little bit. It is amazing, too, just thinking of, like I said earlier, the bar was set so low at the quarterback spot. Like when Jack Tuttle came in and his first completion was 5 yards to Max Bredesen, shout out Brady getting a reception, and you're like, oh, that was nice. He went through a couple progressions, checked it down, 5 yards, and is like, wait, why are we impressed by that? But again, that's what this has come to. So I thought that Jack Tuttle is going to be an impact for this team as long as he stays healthy in the second half of the season. But for me, if I had to pick one thing, it's still the run game. It's still Kalel Mullings, and obviously Donovan Edwards, big part of that. But Kalel's been, he's one of the leading rushers in the country.
Yeah, for me, I'll take the route of the guy that can improve, that kind of push it to the next level. I'd love to see things kind of settle down in Evan Link to figure it out. I mean, I feel like if he even plays just a little bit better with the offensive line, the guys who were out on Saturday, everyone's healthy, everyone meshes. I still think this offensive line has a chance to be good. Defensively, waiting for someone to kind of step into. I mean, you can't just be a 1-for-1 replacement for Rod Moore, but as a team captain, I don't think Makari Page has played as well as we've seen him in the past. The position coach in general, Lamar Morgan, has said, the best safeties are guys that make everyone around them better. And I think when you look at a guy like Rod Moore, like always lined up where he's supposed to be and making sure guys get lined up where they're supposed to be. And, one of the bigger sort of tone setters in terms of watching film, preparation, being where you need to be. I haven't seen, I don't know what his prep is like behind the scenes, but on the field, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by what we've seen out of Makari Page. So I think some headier, more veteran play back there would go a long way in kind of stabilizing this thing. Because it's not terrible. We expect it to be, and as it should be.